Hare Krishna. For those of you who arrived after I previously made an announcement, Maharaj isn't going to be here tonight. Rather than cancel the class, and nobody's really had a chance to prepare because we just got this notice at the last minute, I'm suggesting that we do a reading, take turns reading. I'll start, and then if you want to read next, just make raise your hand or say something in the chat box, and get going right now. Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to mute everyone. So if you want to speak, please raise your hand first or say something in the chat box. Actually, I need to be made a co-host. So if you're not muted, please mute right now. Okay, I'm a co-host now. All right. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Astuta Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Yamuna Maya ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyari Shatarine. So, starting with text 15 and
16, actually.
I'm sorry, 16. Okay. Yatra naishreya samnama Vanam kama dughar udrumai Sarvartu sribhir bibhrajat Kaivalyam ivamurtimat. Translation. In those Vaikuntha planets, there are many forests which are very auspicious. In those forests, the trees are desire trees, and in all seasons they are filled with flowers and fruits, because everything in the Vaikuntha planets is spiritual and personal. Purport. In the Vaikuntha planets, the land, the trees, the fruits and flowers, and the cows, everything is completely spiritual and personal. The trees are desire trees. On this material planet, the trees can produce fruits and flowers according to the order of material energy. But in the Vaikuntha planets, the trees, the land, the residents, and the animals are all spiritual. There is no difference between the tree and the animal, or the animal and the man. Here, the word murtimat indicates that everything has a spiritual form. Formlessness, as conceived by the impersonalists, is refuted in this verse. In the Vaikuntha planets, although everything is spiritual, everything has a particular form. The trees and the men have form, and because all of them, although differently formed, are spiritual, there is no difference between them. Would anyone like to read the next verse? Text 17. I can share the screen and put it up if you want to read it from your computer screen. Any takers? Okay. I'm going to read the next text then. Just give me 1 second. Text 17. Vaimanika salala. Oh, wait. Got to get the meter here. Vaimanika salala nascharitani saswad gayanti yatra shamala. I need some help. I need to get, I haven't had a chance to see this. It's the first time seeing it. Gayanti yatra shamala kshapanani bartu Antarjalenu vikasan madavinam Gandhena kandita diopyanilam shipanta. Translation. In the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their airplanes, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing of the character and activities of the Lord, which are always devoid of all inauspicious qualities. While singing of the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. Purport. It appears from this verse that the Vaikuntha planets are full of all opulences. There are airplanes in which the inhabitants travel in the spiritual sky with their sweethearts. There is a breeze carrying the fragrance of blossoming flowers, and this breeze is so nice that it also carries the honey of the flowers. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha, however, are so interested in glorifying the Lord but they do not like the disturbance of such a nice breeze while they are chanting the Lord's glories. In other words, they are pure devotees. They consider the glorification of the Lord more important than their own sense gratification. In the Vaikuntha planets, there is no question of sense gratification. To smell the fragrance of a blossoming flower is certainly very nice, but it is simply for sense gratification. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha give first preference to the service of the Lord, not their own sense gratification. Serving the Lord in transcendental love yields such transcendental pleasure that, in comparison, sense gratification is counted as insignificant. Having embarked on this, I'm going to read the prayers. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vikshakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just to get some discussion started, I thought this was very interesting that the glorification of the Lord is so pleasing that wonderful sense gratification is considered an annoyance. Imagine. It's okay, we have a comment in the chat box here. Oh, Bhanu Swami's translation of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on this verse. Alighting from the plains and entering the water, the devotees constantly sing the glories of the Lord, which are devoid of all faults, while criticizing the wind, since it distracts their minds with its perfume of madhavi blossoms filled with honey. The activities of the Lord are devoid of all contaminations of present in jivas. Okay, I have it on paper. I'm gonna read it from there because it's a little bit easier. Okay, the activities of the Lord are devoid of all contaminations of present in jivas of the material world, shamala kshapanani, and they destroy the grief arising from separation from the Lord. The servants descend from their airplanes in order to produce special notes in their singing. They sing while immersed in the lakes up to their throats, or placing their consorts on the trees on the bank of the water, they cover them with leaves and then have them enter with the water. Their attention fixed only on the describing the Lord may be Their attention fixed only on the describing the Lord may be disturbed by the fragrance of the blossoming madhavi flowers filled with honey, but they continue to sing. They do not give up singing. They revile the wind. O cool, gentle, murmuring breeze filled with the fragrance of madhavi flowers, why do you try to divert the attention of our minds absorbed in the sweetness of the Lord's pastimes? Do you think you are sweeter than those pastimes? How foolish you are. Because the previous verse described the trees as being the personification of Kaivalya, there is a suggestion that though the fragrance of the flowers is the personification of impersonal Brahman, the bliss of worshiping the Lord is superior to the bliss of Brahman. So there's some, I don't know if there's some copy editing problems in that, but it's a pretty elaborate description of the mindset. Any comments? This text. Okay, next verse then. Paravanatanya Brita Sarasachara Chakravaka. Oh, this is terrible. My mind is not allowing me to remember the meter. My dear husband, could you give one line of the meter? Or someone?
The Brahma Samhita meter.
Okay. Okay. Paravatanya Britasara Sachakravaka Datyu Hamsa Shukati Barhinam Ya Kola Halo Viramate Chiramatra Muchair Bringadipe Harikatam Ivagayamane. Translation. When the king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. Purport. This verse reveals the absolute nature of Vaikuntha. There is no difference between the birds there and the human residents. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Spiritual variegatedness means that everything is animate. There is nothing inanimate. Even the trees, the ground, the plants, the flowers, the birds, and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. The special feature of Vaikuntha is that there is no question of sense gratification. In the material world, even an ass enjoys his sound vibration, but in the Vaikunthas, such nice birds as the peacock, the chakravaka, and the cuckoo prefer to hear the vibration of the glories of the Lord from the bees. The principles of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, are very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. So this reminds me of, we read in 10th canto in Krishna book, how when Krishna plays his flute, the calves who are sucking milk from their mothers, they stop sucking because they're stunned in ecstasy, and the cows spread their ears so they can catch the sound. And when Krishna goes walking through the hills and the forests, the stones melt in ecstasy. I thought too, this is also an indication, it says that there is no difference, there's no superiority or sense of superiority. Prabhupada often says that in the material world, people are envious of animals, and that's why they kill them. And sometimes I've wondered, well, what does that mean that they're envious of them? And I don't know for sure, but I do know I've heard people say things like they'll be passing by some cows grazing in a field, and they'll say, oh, look at them, they're living the life. All they have to do is stand around and eat. They don't have to work, So it's kind of an envy, that we see somebody, we see a creature that's just living its life, and we want what they have, which, in the case of animals that are eaten are their bodies. We want their flesh, we want their labor, because Krishna is supplying their food, they're not having to work hard to get it. So somehow in our conditioned state, we think we're entitled to exploit them for our own sense gratification. So, but in the spiritual world, everything everyone is equal. Everyone nobody thinks they're better than each other. In fact, everybody thinks somebody else is better than them. So such as it is. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Let's see if that's yeah, I'm just gonna. So comment from 2 verses previous from Akendra Prabhu. Let me just make sure I'm getting things right. He says, the impersonalists put forward formlessness in a similar way that materialists say that this life is all there is. All they can perceive is matter, so they have nothing to say about spiritual reality. They don't see anything, so they say nothing is there. Yeah, that's the mentality of a child or a fool. Children can be excused for saying foolish things because they haven't been educated enough yet. But an adult, no excuse. Okay, this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on verse 18. The clamor of the doves, cuckoos, cranes, chakravakas, gallinules, swans, parrots, partridges, and peacocks immediately ceases when the king of bees loudly hums with resemblance to glorification of the Lord. Like the devotees riding on airplanes, the birds also are great devotees with pure bhakti. The doves, I can't really read this because the diacritics are not coming out correctly here, so I don't want to chance it. Cuckoos, gallinules immediately stop chirping. Oh, there is glorification of the Lord. Let us be silent and listen. What is it? The king of bees, qualified to sit on the garland of the Lord, is humming Hari, Hari, caused by the sound of his vibrating wings. This is equal to glorification of the Lord. I do not know how much more respect the birds show for the bee if he directly glorifies the Lord. That's really wonderful. Sometimes I've thought, when you sit in the temple room and there are a lot of devotees, especially around a festival time, there's lots of devotees in the temple room, and they're all Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, and it all blends. And I've often thought that the devotees sound like bees with the hum of the Maha Mantra during japa period. Okay. Does anybody else want to make a comment? All right. Next text. Mandara kunda kurabot pala champakarna unaga naga bukulam buja parijata gandher chitta tulasika bararena tasya yasmin stapa sumanaso bahumanayanti. Translation. Although flowering plants like the mandara, kunda, kurabaka, utpala, champaka, arna, punaga, nagakeshara, bakula, lily, and parijata are full of transcendental fragrance, they are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi, for Tulsi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. Purport. The importance of Tulsi leaves is very clearly mentioned here. Tulsi plants and their leaves are very important in devotional service. Devotees are recommended to water the Tulsi tree every day and collect the leaves to worship the Lord. One time, an atheistic Swami remarked, "What is the use of watering the Tulsi plant? It is better to water eggplant. By watering the eggplant, one can get some fruits. But what is the use of watering the Tulsi? These foolish creatures, unacquainted with devotional service, sometimes play havoc with the education of people in general. The most important thing about the spiritual world is that there is no envy among the devotees there. This is true even among the flowers, which are all conscious of the greatness of Tulsi. In the Vaikuntha world entered by the 4 Kumaras, even the birds and flowers are conscious of service to the Lord. So that Mayavadi sannyasi, atheistic sannyasi, I should say, was actually wrong even about material benefits of Tulsi. Scientists have discovered health benefits from taking Tulsi. However, Srila Prabhupada has not authorized us, and I don't believe any of the acharyas would authorize using Tulsi in commercial preparations or strictly as a health remedy. There was some devotee who was once ill, and I'm not sure I'm remembering the details so correctly right now, but he told her to take like charnamrita, in which the water, the Tulsi leaves had been sitting, and drink that. But nobody was ever authorized to use Tulsi as tea or in capsules or anything. Tulsi is not a commodity. We can get health benefits from drinking water that has Tulsi in it, but that doesn't mean it's the primary application. And we shouldn't treat her as a commodity for our benefit. She's for the service of the Lord. If we get a side effect of benefit to our health, that's fine. But it's kind of a misconception that it's okay to use Tulsi in health preparations without actually, accepting her as prasadam, at being offered to the Lord first. So I feel like I think that's important to note. I've gotten in some discussions with people about that, and Prabhupada never authorized us to use Tulsi as a health remedy, except incidentally. Whatever we take as prasadam from being offered to Krishna, that's fine. Anyways, does anybody else have? Okay, there's a comment here from Ananta Shesha Prabhu. In relation to Akendra Prabhu's comment, our sense of reality is only what our limited senses allow us to feel or experience. We have no idea of the scope of spiritual senses. No, we don't. I mean, we hear stories about animals who see colors that human beings can't see. So even on the material level, there are other living entities whose senses outstrip ours by a lot. So what to speak of if there are no material coverings, what our senses must be like. Yeah, it's a good point. We don't know, but we're so conditioned, we're so conditioned that we think that this is it. Lord Indra took birth in the material world as a pig, and was it Lord Brahma who came to get him again? And he's like, no, I'm happy this way. I'll have my pig wife and my pig children, and life is good. Because he was conditioned, the body you have that's what defines reality for you. So yeah, we don't have a clue. We don't have a clue what's possible for us. Well, we do have a clue because Shastra tells us, but our conditioning gets in the way. All right. Any other comments? Oh, let me see. Vishwanath, okay. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, like the birds, the trees are also the greatest devotees, devoid of envy and hatred. Naga means the Nagakeshara tree. These trees have flowers with the sweetest perfume, but when they smell the fragrance of Tulsi, when the Lord performs pastimes in the forest with Tulsi ornaments, they offer respect to Tulsi for her austerities to achieve that position, for they have not done such austerities. You are so fortunate. If we know what austerities she did, then we would go to the land of Bharat and do the same. This is the hint from the description. Even the inhabitants of Vaikuntha desire to take birth in Bharat. It is hinted that the land of Bharat is superior to Vaikuntha. The trees respect Tulsi and do not envy her because she has a pure heart, Sumanasaha. Or Sumanasaha can mean flowering trees. Mentioned here is made of the persons in airplanes born from wombs, the birds born from eggs, and the trees born from seeds. The fourth type of living beings born from perspiration do not worship the Lord, since they are not described here. My husband makes the point that eggplant is a non-Ayurvedic nightshade anyways. Yes. Prabhupada ate eggplant. He had no objection to it, but it seems like a lot of people after they reach a certain age can no longer consume eggplant. It's like our abilities to digest it are wane, and they can cause more problems than they solve. So Tulsi is superior in every respect, and that atheistic sannyasi didn't know what he was talking about. All right, so text 20. Yat sankulam haripadanati matras dishtar Vaiduryamara katahema mayel vimanai Yesham brihat katitatasmitas shobhimukya Krishna manam naraja adadur utsmaya dayai. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha travel in their airplanes made of lapis lazuli, emerald, and gold. Although crowded by their consorts who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated to passion by their mirth and beautiful charms. Purport: in the material world, opulences are achieved by materialistic persons by dint of their labor. One cannot enjoy material prosperity unless he works very hard to achieve it. But the devotees of the Lord, who are residents of Vaikuntha, have the opportunity to enjoy a transcendental situation of jewels and emeralds. Ornaments made of gold bedecked with jewels are achieved not by working hard, but by the benediction of the Lord. In other words, devotees in the Vaikuntha world, or even in this material world, cannot be poverty-stricken, as is sometimes supposed. They have ample opulences for enjoyment, but they need not labor to achieve them. It is also stated that in the Vaikuntha world, the consorts of the residents are many, many times more beautiful than we can find in this material world, even in the higher planets. It is specifically mentioned here that a woman's large hips are very attractive and they stimulate a man's passion. But the wonderful feature of Vaikuntha is that although the women have large hips and beautiful faces and are decorated with ornaments of emeralds and jewels, the men are so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that the beautiful bodies of the women cannot attract them. In other words, there is enjoyment of the association of the opposite sex, but there is no sexual relationship. The residents of Vaikuntha have a better standard of pleasure, so there is no need of sex pleasure. So I'm going to read Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. His translation is, Vaikuntha is filled with airplanes made of gold, Vaidurya, and emeralds obtained solely by worship of the Lord's lotus feet. It is filled with devotees absorbed in the Lord who cannot be disturbed by the smiles, glances, and words of the most beautiful women with broad hips and smiling faces. And then his purport, having described the beauty of the surrounding gardens, he describes the beauty of the city in the center. Vaikuntha is filled with airplanes made of gold, obtained simply by surrender to the Lord's feet, by bhakti, not by jnana or karma, even though performed perfectly. In those persons engaged in the bliss of worship of the Lord, there is room for the bliss of Brahman, as mentioned previously. What to speak? It should say, there is no room for the bliss of Brahman, or I'm not sure. As mentioned previously, what to speak of material pleasure? The most beautiful women with broad hips and smiling faces cannot produce passion by their naturally attractive smiles, glances, and words in the men who have absorbed their minds in Krishna. Vaikuntha is filled with such people. Any questions or comments? Okay. I'm feeling hesitant to read too much more because I want to leave this for Maharaj. So would anyone like to lead Kirtan? If not, I will do so. Haridas Prabhu, would you like to lead Kirtan? All right.
I'd like to hear you lead. Kirtan.
I led it last night. If you
Yeah,
insist.
you should lead tonight, but remember Mara's only like one tune chanted and that's it.
Okay. You want to lead Kirtan, Prabhuji?
No, you go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, so we're leaving off on text 20. Right. Actually, I would like to hear Maharaj speak on text 20 because, you know, the whole concept of not being distracted by beautiful women, I'm sure he has some insightful things to say. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Well, Hari Bol.
Hari Hari. Before everybody leaves, I just want to remind you, since some of you came late, that tomorrow our dear friend Mahesh Pandit Prabhu is going to be having surgery. So we pray for please pray for his, well, for him to stay as he always is, Krishna conscious, and that for things to go well, and that he may, remains under the protection of Krishna, and that the surgeons are also guided by Krishna. So thank you all for being here tonight. And does anyone have word about Kadamba Kanana Maharaj? Does anybody have information about Kadamba Kanana Maharaj to share?
Hi, this is Damodar Priya. That's why I said that probably he's there, Hare Krishna. Why he's probably there with my guru, because my guru's getting worse.
Yeah.
So they think that I think it's he can't talk, and they think it might be any day now.
Okay.
We got an update this morning that was actually pretty bad.
Thank you. Well, I'm assuming there's somebody there who has some expertise, saying if he's in an active state of leaving or something like that.
So he
It's not
can't
letting-
even, yeah, he can't even get out of the bed.
Okay.
He's pretty much in hospice is what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Usually a trained nurse can tell if somebody's in the active stage or not. So it's not a matter of him just being ill. It's progressing.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I have the thing that they send us every day, and they already let us know if anything changes. They're going to let us know immediately, because that's how imminent it is.
Okay.
He's already asked to go. My Guru Maharaj.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for that. So we pray for him. Pray for Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, especially for Kanana Kanana Prabhu. And thank you very much for being here. And yeah, I don't know what will happen for tomorrow, but it would be nice if Maharaj wants the class to continue, if anybody wants to give class tomorrow, I'm going to post my email address in the chat box. It's tulasipriya@gmail.com. So all one word, tulasipriya@gmail.com. You can send it to me, and or you can send it to my husband, akendra.dasa@gmail.com. And if somebody would like to speak tomorrow, in case, if you want to be ready, Maharaj may be available to give class. We don't know yet. But I don't know. I feel like Maharaj would want us to keep meeting together. I wanted to do something where we would take turns reading, but it didn't seem like we were up for that. So if somebody wants to give class tomorrow, Haridas Prabhu, maybe you. We would love to hear you give a class. Or Meena Mataji. Actually, I've asked her to give class before, and she's reluctant. Anybody, please, send us an email if you want to give class tomorrow, and just be prepared. Maharaj might show, he might not show up. All right, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Right.
Krishna, Tulsi
Yes.
Priya Mataji.
Adaki Mataji.
Yes, I have a question. Which canto we are studying?
We are in Canto 3, Chapter 15, and we are starting on text 21 tomorrow.
Okay.
Would you like to give class?
No, I don't.
You're certainly more than welcome to. We would love it. Okay, anyways, as I said,
You said tomorrow you're doing
sorry?
Bhagavatam. Did you say that? Sorry. I was wondering, were you saying that tomorrow you're going to be continuing the Srimad Bhagavatam verses? Or
wait, tomorrow
if
is
Guru Maharaj is
Chaitanya
here? Or you'll be,
Charitamrita. Yeah, tomorrow is Chaitanya Charitamrita, so that's different. I don't remember the verse off the top of my head. So for Chaitanya Charitamrita, does my husband remember? I can look it up real quick.
I think we're still in Adi Leela, chapter 5, verse 41, deep in the purport there. It's a long one.
again, you Prabhu, Kanachana Prabhu, or anyone else who wants to speak on that. So you said Adi, what was it, Adi 541? Yeah, okay, so,
I'll try to at least be available if you want to. I came late today, but if you want to do alternating reading or something tomorrow, I'll try to make sure I'm punctual and have my services out of the way so that I'm not stuck in the kitchen at the same
that would,
time.
that would be great if you can do that. Okay, all right, so we'll see you all tomorrow, Lord willing, and Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai,
Yeah.
ki jai, Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai, Dhammadikkanana Maharaj ki jai,
Yeah.
Thank you, Tulsi. Great. Thank you.
Samaveda
Sarva
Bhakti.
Bhaktagan ki jai.
Thank you, Tulsi.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you, Tulsi.
Hare Krishna.